Welcome to another edition of It's Still Real to Me. My pal Joey Levine is here with us as he's every weekend. Zaslow Show 2.0, It's Still Real to Me, wrestling podcast where we recap all the big stories in pro wrestling from the previous week. We, of course, are on the road to WrestleMania, and everything Zaslow Show 2.0, including It's Still Real to Me, is always brought to us by the title sponsor of Zaslow Show 2.0, Anidjar and Levine Accident Attorneys. I mean, if you're involved in an accident, if you got a personal injury, you got to make sure you get taken care of. And the guys who know how to do it, to get you what you deserve, are at Anidjar and Levine Accident Attorneys, 800-747-FREE. That's 800-747-3733. Joey, good morning. We got a lot to get to here today. I want to start off, we've had some fun this week where we debuted, hey, we're in the middle of WrestleMania season and March Madness. So that means we have the ultimate WrestleMania bracket challenge. We debuted it. You put the seedings together. We debuted it the beginning of this week. All the first round matchups are essentially done. There's a few hours left on a couple of them. Second round matchups will debut tomorrow. But let's go over some of the highlights. And of course, if you're just hearing this for the first time, you go to @Zaslow Show on Twitter. You could vote there. They're posted for a few days, actually. So you can go in my timeline and you could vote throughout the week, throughout the next few days. And you could vote on the Ultimate WrestleMania Bracket Challenge. We actually put, if you go back to the beginning of the week on my timeline, there is the original bracket, what it looks like. It'll be posted and updated tomorrow. But why don't you go over some of the news and notes from the voting this week? What do we got?
Yeah, I mean, I think, we talked about it when we put this out. This is my seating. I put this seating together quickly, and I was wondering how the seating would look when the voting came in. And obviously, Brock Lesnar breaking the streak and Andre slamming Hogan, the one seeds, landslide. No questions. And then the chaos begins. We immediately have...
Well, I will tell you the one, because I had some people like, oh my God, how is this or this seed? How is this or this seed? And look, that's the beauty of it. I mean, that's how it goes. But I will tell you the one that I strongly disagree with as far as the seeding goes. You had Macho and Steamboat at 10 seed. Come on. It's got to be so much higher.
Okay, but I can explain that.
Because that's my, and I'm biased there. It's my all-time favorite match. Go ahead.
Right, okay. But do you ever see that on promos? Do you ever see that in like flash, like any promotional stuff for Mania? Do they talk about it? Here's the thing about it. When I agree, it's arguably amongst a lot of people the greatest professional wrestling match of all time.
I think it's the greatest.
But at the time, it wasn't that kind of moment. It was a great match. And big wrestling fans loved it and thought it was the greatest match ever. But it's not. Like WrestleMania moment, you think it's like, and also let's not forget, guys, this is not a 64 team bracket. This is a 32 moment bracket. So it's still not, I'm not saying it's like, the 40th great.
Well, yeah, if it's number 10, it's not top 40. It's actually top 20.
Right. So it actually is pretty high in terms of all time moments. It's just like, it's not the first, like, part of what I did with the seating was if it popped in my head early, it had to be like Andre pops in, getting slammed by Hogan. Brock. You mean, honestly, Seth Rollins cashing in, which lost to Razor Ramon and Shawn Michaels ladder match, which I was, look, again.
Tough matchup. Tough first round matchup.
That's a tough first round matchup. But again, that's
because, man, do I love that Seth Rollins moment. God,
that
love that moment.
And just from a moment, right? You were talking about, and we'll probably get into this on the show today too. How do you end night one and night two? The aesthetic of it, right? The aesthetic of
and we
Seth
finally
Rollins.
Started to see that on television this week. What's going on there? Yeah.
Seth Rollins cashing in and then holding up the title on the ramp after the greatest cash in the history of the cash in. Look, the ladder match is incredible, but what I think I've learned a little bit from this is people have leaned a lot more into matches than moments.
Okay.
Because Steamboat, right? Obviously, people were, I think, I assume people would be disappointed about that seating with Steamboat and Macho Man. And you know what? It was a great match, but not necessarily the best moment. Another one, where was it? There's a couple others matches. Oh, we have a tie. We have one that ended in a tie. So we have to figure out how we're going to break the tie.
That?
Stone Cold, the submission match
Give me the seed too. Give me the.
8 seed.
Mhm.
Wait,
So
I need to
Stone Cold Bret
pull up
Hart.
yeah, Stone Cold and Bret Hart versus Taker and Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 25, Heaven versus Hell. Tie.
Wow, that's a tie.
I believe that was an 8-9, but I got to double check the bracket.
Okay. All right.
No,
So we'll have
that
to
was
come up
a
with a tiebreaker there. Wow.
yeah.
Very tough first round matchup. Very tough.
Um,
If you were voting though, did you vote on all of them? I couldn't because I posted them. Did you vote on like all of these or did you
oh
just
no,
like
that was a 6-11. So I did vote. So
okay.
full disclosure, I did vote, and I vote Stone Cold, Stone Cold Bret Hart.
Yeah, I would have voted Stone Cold Bret Hart. I
And
mean, it
again,
was
here's why. Here's why. Stone Cold in the sharpshooter with the blood running down his face is a
yeah,
moment that's etched in my mind
yeah.
just in wrestling memories for like for me it would have been like a top 2 or 3 moment. But like I understand it's not necessarily a top 2 or
It's
3
not
moment.
about you, is what you're saying.
It's not about me. But okay, but then immediately a 15 seed beats a 2 seed.
What was that?
I probably seeded this moment wrong, apparently. Vince McMahon screws The Rock at WrestleMania 2000, beats the Ultimate Challenge. Which is
Wow.
crazy to me.
Wow.
So Ultimate Warrior beating Hulk Hogan.
Champion versus champion. Title for title. It's the ultimate challenge.
Yeah. Yep. That one was crazy.
I loved when Vince used to do the opens for the pay-per-view. It's time to rumble. It's time for the Royal Rumble. I love when he used to do the opens. But that one right there, if you're too young to know it or remember it, WrestleMania 6, the Ultimate Challenge, the stars are aligning. When that open for WrestleMania 6 is, I don't know, I feel it might be the greatest WrestleMania open ever. It's incredible. I love when Vince used to narrate, when he used to voice over the opens.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, I'm not old enough to have watched it live, and it's still to me Ultimate Warrior. I mean, when I was growing up, Ultimate Warrior was my favorite. I mean, I loved Ultimate Warrior.
I was a Hogan guy. I was devastated when Warrior won.
I loved Ultimate Warrior. Okay, and so the next one, this one was the controversial. It was a little bit of a controversial one.
Okay,
but not a controversial necessarily result.
Let me
but
hear
a controversial match.
Oh, okay. I know what you're getting at. Go ahead. Yeah.
14 seed Macho Man wins a one-night tourney to become champion at WrestleMania 4. Beats.
Which, by the way, if I could, before you give the challenger there, I always have very fond memories of WrestleMania 4, of the tournament, but most people panned it. Most people most people do not like WrestleMania 4. Maybe it was just too long with the tournament. I have great memories of that tournament as a kid. But anyway.
Well, it also came a year after WrestleMania 3,
the main event is such a fantastic main event with Macho and DiBiase. It's a really great match.
Yeah.
But maybe people felt shortchanged because Hogan and Andre was a double DQ. So, you don't really get, there's a little bit of a bait and switch there where at WrestleMania you're getting Hogan and Andre again, but not really.
Well, look, I mean, so I'll say, so
who did it go against? Go ahead.
It went against number 3 seed Eddie Guerrero versus Chris Benoit at WrestleMania 20.
It wasn't versus Chris Benoit. They both won their title
that's
matches.
what I meant.
So they were celebrating in the ring at the end of the night.
Right. That's what I meant.
Yeah, Eddie defended against Kurt, and Benoit won the title from Triple H, Shawn Michaels. Yeah.
Right.
I was a little uncomfortable. You know what? I was a little bit uncomfortable with it. And so the way that I posted it on Twitter was Eddie Guerrero and Bad Guy celebrate in ring. I didn't even put his name, I just put Bad Guy. And you know what? I only had one person who responded to it with, and look, they weren't upset or anything, but I had one person who's like, you may want to take a look back at that one right there. And I obviously knew what he meant. So no one was terrible. No one seemed to be offended by it.
Mm-hmm.
If you are offended by it, I totally get it. And so.
But I think for the people who are offended by it, by putting that as part of it, I would say this. There's a video on Twitter of Paul Heyman talking about Chris Benoit. Yeah. And he was at some type of event where he was talking to a crowd, and Benoit came up, and this guy in the crowd keeps
some type of Q&A kind of deal.
Yeah, and the guy in the crowd keeps going, my boy, my boy, my boy. About
whenever Benoit's name was mentioned. Yeah.
And then Paul Heyman went nuts. He was like, why the fuck do you keep calling him your boy? And he went really off. Mad. He went off. And he was like, he went into the whole thing. But he also did say, he goes, as a talent, greatest I've ever worked with. I wanted him to main event the first ECW pay-per-view with Eddie. Like, he went into his career. He's like, as a talent, there's no question. As a person. So like, when I was thinking about it, when I was including it, I was like, look, I get it. I know people don't want to hear his name, don't want to see his name, all the things he did. But there were also two people in that moment. And their careers combined in that moment was like a watershed moment for the industry. And if Chris Benoit didn't do what he did, this would probably be like I had it as a 3 seed. It might even be a 1 seed.
Like 3 is pretty high anyway. So yeah.
I mean, but it was such a massive moment, to have those two guys.
And it was in the Garden. It was in the Garden too.
And have in Vince McMahon's company. Like, it was just but anyways, that loses, so it's gone. So we don't have to worry about people being offended anymore. I had Sean. We mentioned Sean and Razor beating 12 seed, beating 5 seed D-Bry, winning.
WrestleMania 30.
Excuse me, beating Seth Rollins, cashing in at 31. D-Bry barely 6 seed D-Bry at WrestleMania 30, winning the undisputed title. Barely ekes out Shawn Michaels on the zip line. Barely ekes out the zip line.
Okay, it's that's my Vince when he's going down the zip line.
We talked about the tie. Steamboat and Macho at 10 has a big early lead. I think it might even be over WrestleMania 1.
Okay.
So Steamboat and Macho Man will beat WrestleMania 1.
Good.
10 seed Edge spearing Jeff Hardy off of the ladder is likely going to beat 7 seed Macho Man and Liz reuniting.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I know everyone loves that spot. It's awesome. I don't revere it as much as everyone else does. Macho and Liz reuniting after Macho loses the career match to Ultimate Warrior, which, by the way, phenomenal match. All right. Ultimate Warrior's 2 best matches of his career are against Hogan and Macho. Phenomenal match. All right. Great finish too, where Warrior he really just obliterates Macho in the end there. Phenomenal match. And then the end where Liz comes in and tosses Sherry out of the ring, and Macho doesn't know that where did you come from? And they reunite. It's one of the greatest WrestleMania moments ever. Not even close. How is this not a runaway winner?
I don't know.
For Macho and Liz.
I don't know who the guy is that is, I guess he's a buddy of yours who follows you, who filled his bracket out.
Oh, okay.
He had Seth Rollins cashing in and Liz and Macho Man in the finals, and Liz and Macho Man winning.
I believe it. He
posted it on your feed.
Is that my guy Billy? Is that my guy Billy?
I think so. I don't remember who it was. I don't remember his name, but I'll find it. But you retweeted it. He filled out his entire bracket.
It's a much better moment than Edge spearing Jeff Hardy off the ladder. Everyone loves that spot. It's really great. I don't think it's like the greatest thing ever. And so I definitely do not think it's better than Macho and Liz.
Do you think I seeded Macho and Liz reuniting too low as a 7 seed?
Yeah, so essentially you're saying it's top 14.
You probably would flip. Probably should have flipped that and Eddie and Benoit.
Yeah, I'd have had Macho Liz top 10 for sure.
Yeah. And then the last one right now, which I don't know where I would have gone here in terms of upsets. It's not a huge upset. 9 seed over an 8 seed. Once in a lifetime, Cena versus Rock, beating Undertaker and Triple H, end of an era, on the same WrestleMania card as an 8 seed.
Down here too. What a card. What a night that was. Yeah, I got no problem with that. I'm good with that. I'm good with that.
I think from a moment, I guess the moment of Cena and Rock is massive, but like the moment on the ramp with Triple H, Shawn Michaels, and Undertaker, that sticks out to me. It's like, again, with the aesthetic, you're like, man, this is crazy.
Me too.
But yeah, that's where we're at. So I think we have like 10 hours left on the last few, all the 8, 9, and 10 sevens. We have a few hours left if you want to, once this is posted if people
Cool.
still want to vote on those, so that can still be affected. But and yeah, we're gonna have to figure out how do we break this tie between Stone Cold, the submission match, and Heaven versus Hell? How do we break
Maybe
this
I'll
tie?
have to repost it, and I'll
Yeah.
say,
Or
I
maybe
got
you
another
just
few
vote.
hours
Maybe you
here.
just vote.
Yeah, maybe I vote because I haven't voted. You vote.
Maybe
You vote. I haven't voted.
maybe you just vote on this one.
Okay, maybe I'll. Yeah.
I mean, you can't vote online, so you can just say your vote now. The voting is locked.
Okay, let's do it. So tell me it again. Let's do it right now.
It's Stone Cold versus Stone Cold versus Bret Hart submission match at WrestleMania.
Double turn
versus the double turn.
No, it's WrestleMania like 12 maybe. It's like 12.
Sorry, my notes are all over the place on this one. And then Shawn Michaels versus Undertaker. Heaven versus Hell at WrestleMania 25.
Yeah, I'm going. I mean, I love the imagery of Heaven versus Hell. Undertaker comes from below, Shawn comes from above. But yeah, we're going Stone Cold and Bret Hart. I mean, Stone Cold was obviously, super, super hot, but he really became a made man that day. It's the imagery is incredible. When Britt Baker has the blood all over her face in the no holds barred match with Thunder Rosa, we all compare it back to Stone Cold. When Becky Lynch is standing on the steps with the broken nose that Nia Jax busted up, we all compare it back to Stone Cold. You got the double turn there. Bret Hart, my all-time favorite, and of course, that moment right there with the turn of Stone Cold to babyface, and away we go. That's the better moment. So I'm giving that my vote. That'll advance.
All right. Yeah. So that means that moves on. I don't think that was an upset. I certainly had that seeded higher. Yeah. So that's a 6 seed beating an 11 seed.
Yeah.
So that's fair.
It's appropriate.
Yeah. All right. So we'll have the updated bracket up on your Twitter tomorrow.
Yeah.
Monday.
Yeah. And then we'll open up the second round matchups too. All right. So
and I'll fix all my and for anybody who noticed them, I'll fix all of my typos that I have in the bracket because I have a few of them.
All right. So let's keep things moving here before we get to some of the big stories in the wrestling television this week. I want to start things off with the Hall of Fame. So we have the second Hall of Fame inductee was announced a couple days ago. It's the Great Muta. All right. There you go. Old school, all over the world. That seems to be a perfectly fine choice. Now, we found out at the beginning of the week, it's Rey Mysterio. All right. Well, actually, no, it was the beginning of the week before it was Rey Mysterio. And then this week, you had all the stuff with Rey and Dominic. We'll get to that in a moment here. All right. But it had me thinking because you were saying you think there's someone out there who's going to actually be the headliner, that Rey is not going to be the headliner. I think Rey's big enough to be a headliner.
Spoiler alert, I have some news on that in Big Dirt, not Big Dirt.
Okay. So I don't know if Rey's going to be the headliner or if there's going to be someone else, but nonetheless, we do this all the time where, how is someone not in the Hall of Fame yet? Is it this person's turn yet? Blah, blah, blah. I got to tell you, and obviously this comes from my childhood, so there's a nostalgia factor here. For the life of me, I cannot figure out how the hell is Demolition not in the WWE Hall of Fame. Is there beef there? Did something bad happen on the way out? How the hell is Demolition not in the WWE Hall of Fame? That's a disgrace. I don't get it. Demolition was they were WWF's answer.
I mean, I have a one thought.
They were WWF's answer to the Road Warriors at the time, and they were a massive success. And for me as a kid watching, these guys were unbeatable. I think they're 3-time WWF Tag Team Champions. They beat, they beat Strike Force, and then they beat the Brain Busters, and then they beat Colossal Connection. How about that? Right up top of my head, I got the 3 titles that they won.
You're passionate about Demolition.
I am Demolition. And I understand things went a little bit awry when they added Crush. What are we talking around 1991? Because Axe really couldn't cut it in the ring anymore. And that's actually the same timing of when the Road Warriors came to WWF. So we didn't really get the dream. They were setting it up, but we didn't really get the dream feud of Legion of Doom versus Demolition. It kind of fizzled out. And then I think Demolition's last appearance was maybe WrestleMania 7, and they lost. They faced a couple of guys who came over from New Japan, actually, and they lost. It was not a good match. But Demolition, when I think of all-time great tag teams, Demolition is one of the very first that comes to my mind. What the hell is going on there?
I don't know if I could accurately answer this for you because they don't pop into my mind immediately, but I'm also a little younger. By the time I was like fully cognizant of what was going on in WWE, they're already gone. So I would say there's two things. One, like you said, they were only 3-time champs. That's not a Hall of Fame resume. Okay. If we're talking about accomplishments. And they were only in WWE for like 4 years, right?
I'll tell you what, though, I was going to say, the Hart Foundation was inducted a few years ago. And remember, that was when
that's more like I guess that's as a tag team, right?
Remember, that was when the fan came in to attack Brett?
I was there.
Oh, and then Dax Harwood punched the guy in the stomach,
we were there.
Remember?
Me and my brother and our buddy, we were there. In Brooklyn, right?
But
that was in Brooklyn, yeah.
Yeah, but I think you're right that's more along the lines of the entire faction,
right?
Which obviously played a big deal in the Attitude Era. Because if you go back to the actual Hart Foundation, Brett and Jim the Anvil, I bet they only won it 2, max 3 times. Yeah. You got to remember back then, man, like the titles weren't changing hands every month.
You know what WWE should do? I was thinking about this because you were passionate. By the way, I have a list of a couple guys that I think I deserve it.
Demolition, man.
You know what WWE should consider? UFC, their Hall of Fame, which I'll add is sort of a joke in itself.
I'm not sure I even knew they had one.
Yeah, well, they just announced last night that Anderson Silva is finally going in. They've had problems as a company, so that's great that he's going to go in. But it's a UFC Hall of Fame. It's not necessarily an MMA Hall of Fame, which people want. But anyways, because WWE's Hall of Fame has really become more of like a wrestling Hall of Fame, right? Yeah. UFC's is more. But what they do is they have like they have different wings. So they have like the Pioneer wing, which is what Anderson Silva is going in. Apparently, they have like the more recent wing, but they also have the fight wing. And what I would do is I would have like a moments or like fight like wing type of thing, and I would have Demolition in for their longest run of all time until it was broken. Like that is something
right.
That
you want to talk about how many times they had it? I mean, the New Day finally beat their all-time record. Demolition was that record holder for, what are we talking, over 20 years?
Right. And that's what I'm saying is I would maybe put them in that wing. Maybe.
I think it's crazy.
Don't you think they should have that though? Shouldn't they have like a match wing where they can just say like there are people who have had some of the greatest matches ever, I'm sure, that are just didn't have Hall of Fame careers that you could. I don't think I
look at it that way, because then, like, if you look at pro sports and, it's kind of taking off of pro sports, but you look at pro sports, if a guy is an all-time game, in the playoffs, doesn't get into the Hall of Fame, basically.
Yeah, but it's different. It's different because they play like in football, they play 16 games a year. I mean, there's just so many like fights, like for the UFC, for example, like there's one went in the last couple of years, like Clay Guida went in for his match with, I forgot who, but
where he jumped off the cage.
I don't really remember, but like Clay Guida is not a Hall of Famer just off of his fighting resume, but that fight was like, it was like one of the greatest fights you'll ever see in MMA. And I think there's probably examples of that in WWE where there's like, I don't know. I bet like somebody like, I don't know if it's like R-Truth or somebody probably had like him and Miz.
Well, I'll tell you right now, R-Truth is 1,000% going into the Hall of Fame when he's done. 1,000%.
Well, you know who else I was thinking about who certainly is going to be in is the Miz, right? So I was thinking about
1,000%.
But like Miz and R-Truth, Awesome Truth versus what was it, Rock and Cena, right? Like that's like a moment where Rock and Cena finally they're tagging against Awesome. Like but that won't go in on its own. But stuff like that. So
who are some of the guys you have there? Demolition is always the one I.
So obviously I have
crazy.
Obviously, I have Batista, which we know he'll get in. It's just been situational, I think, with him. And again, more on that later in the show. So I have 4 other guys. And just from looking, Sid, I think Sid.
I saw that recently that he's not in, and it's crazy.
4-time world champion.
Crazy he's not in.
Quintessential heel of the 90s, right? He's always in the top feud.
With amazing look. Guy. Yeah. It's crazy that he's not in. Yeah.
Lex Luger, which I think maybe he doesn't deserve to be in, but there's something about Lex Luger. Whenever I think of him, I'm like, this was a top guy for a long time.
Yeah, they may not be happy because the Liz stuff.
Right.
They may not want to do that. Yeah.
Here's one that I thought was interesting. X-Pac, just as X-Pac, not as D-Generation X or anything like that. Like X-Pac's resume as just a professional wrestler is
See, that's interesting
remarkable.
because most of those guys who go in as a faction, NWO, DX, that kind of deal, they were already inducted individually. I don't remember if there are scenarios where the faction gets inducted and then one of the individuals afterwards.
Batista. Isn't
Evolution's been inducted?
Aren't they? Or maybe not.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
They should be, or they will be.
So I don't know if they've done that as the order of entrance before. I'm with you on X-Pac. I'm with you.
Yeah.
But I don't know if they've ever done it like that.
He has so much. Like you look at his career, he did.
Well, you want to talk about moments? Shit, 1, 2, 3, kid. I mean, that moment's forever.
Yeah. Yep. And then the last one, Goldust.
Yeah, but that'll happen. He's still active. He's still an active wrestler.
You think he's going to get in?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought that would be the controversial one, but you're the second person who's been like, yeah, he should be in.
I think he's a lock that he's getting in, but he's still an active wrestler. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, but so is Rey Mysterio.
Yeah, but it also seems well, two things. One, it seems like they're using it as part of the storyline, which is great. And number two, I don't know if we're going to get to what we were speculating about, but I thought last week, and we talked about it, I thought they were going to make it a retirement match, which would add to it.
Might.
Maybe they will. Maybe they will. And then that also makes sense why they're doing it. But you're right about that. Yeah, you're right. And this is the first time we talked about this, that they've ever done that, where you have an active wrestler going in. But Goldust, dude, Goldust is a lock to go into the Hall of Fame.
Because I also had I have a list of 5 guys that I look at and I'm like, how the fuck are these guys in the Hall of Fame? You want me to run that real quick?
Let me hear it.
Big Boss Man, which, I mean, I know he was a great character for a little bit.
Multi-time hardcore champion. Come
on. Brutus the Barber Beefcake. Why? Hillbilly Jim is in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Coco Beware is in the Hall of Fame.
Great match with the are we allowed to say midgets, the little people, WrestleMania 3?
Yeah, the little guys.
Great match.
Hillbilly Jim, Coco Beware, and The Godfather.
Coco being in's tough, man. Yeah. When did Coco ever win a big match? Can we be honest? I thought
the whole reason he was in WWE was to lose to people. He was a jobber, a glorified jobber. He had the bird and the whole thing, and people loved him. But
he did take the first. He did take the first ever tombstone.
Yeah,
where he almost broke his neck.
So maybe Taker. Maybe there was politics, just like Brutus being Hogan's best friend got him everything he ever wanted in wrestling.
Yeah, those are some good ones. Who was the last one you mentioned?
The Godfather.
Godfather.
Great character. Did a lot of stuff. Nation domination, right to censor.
Yeah, that's true. Nation domination, big deal. That's a big deal.
But he was not a big deal as part of the Nation. Right. He was obviously huge as the Godfather. He was huge, but just a character, right? Not. I don't know. Right. Those are the ones when I was going through the Hall of Fame. I'm like, these are weird. There's other guys who if these guys are in, you're right. Demolition needs to be in.
Demolition, man. And by the way, for people who are listening, I know one that has constantly come up that people are should be in the Hall of Fame. And yes, he should be in the Hall of Fame is Rick Martel. 1,000% Rick Martel should be in the Hall of Fame. But Strike Force, I think was he also NWA champion at one point? He may have been. Rick Martel is an all-time great wrestler, but here's the thing, and Rick Martel has spoken about this. He doesn't want it. They don't put it because he's like, that's not my life anymore. Yeah, I have no connection to it anymore. Yeah, he doesn't want it, and it's like I don't know the word that I'm looking for, but they don't just induct people. It has to be like, we would like this. Is this something you said? Yes, I would love that. And then they work together with the rest. Yeah. They don't just induct people. And Rick Martel's name has come up before. So if you're thinking about that out there, this has happened. And Rick Martel has no interest in. It's also part of why Batista has not been inducted yet. He obviously wants to go in, but the timing for him hasn't been right. So he's declined a couple times.
More on that later.
Yeah, he's just not ready for it. Or, for whatever reason. So anyway, all right. let's lead right in to Rey Mysterio since we're talking about the Hall of Fame. I think we're gonna get give me what I want. I think we're gonna get to what I want, which is these guys are not going to touch each other until WrestleMania. All right. The whole buildup where Dom wants Rey to hit him, he won't do it. By the way, another all-time line from Dominic this week where he's talking about Rey being a deadbeat dad and how embarrassing it was for him to show to his friends instead of getting a Mercedes, his dad got him a BMW, and it wasn't even an M series. Another great line from Prison Dom. So I'm wondering here, again, we had a moment where I thought Rey was about to accept the challenge because I would never let a punk kid like you talk to me like that. But you're my son, and I'm never gonna fight you. Joey, how are we gonna get the two of them in a ring at WrestleMania? Rey is pretty steadfast that he is not fighting his son. How do we get the two of them at WrestleMania?
I was thinking about this because you asked me a couple days ago now. There's two ways I thought. One would be something involving the rest of the family where Dom and Rhea maybe like torture the rest of the family and Rey.
That's my only guess where it's like, I'm gonna cut her throat. And, all right, I'll do it. Like there's got to be something that he's going to do to the family if Rey doesn't agree.
I think the other thing is it's not announced and it just happens at Mania. Dom comes out. Dom is in the middle of the ring and running down Rey on that night of WrestleMania.
Is there any way that Dom pulls some shit at the Hall of Fame induction?
That could be it. That would be good. That would be
and
very
so
good.
Then kind of like a 24-hour advance notice, we're adding this to night 2.
And I think he'll involve Eddie.
Is the Hall of Fame Thursday night? SmackDown's Friday. Is that how it goes?
I don't know how they're doing it this year, but
like let's say that's what it is. It's Thursday night. Dom ruins the Hall of Fame induction. And then that's how they add it? Could that be it?
That would be very good. I didn't even consider that, but yeah, that makes sense. That would make sense. And like, yeah, Dom comes out, you don't deserve to be in the same Hall of Fame as the guy who should have been my father, Eddie.
Oh my
God. You know what I mean?
That's so good. Oh my God.
But that would make sense. Actually, that makes a ton of sense. Like I was thinking what I was saying was maybe like the night of Mania, Dom calls him out and finally says the thing that makes him snap. But the Hall of Fame thing is great. That would make a lot of sense.
Maybe that's why he's going into the Hall of Fame now. Maybe that's why they're doing it.
Yeah, that makes a lot more sense. I don't think Rhea will be involved in it. They need to, and they did a good job this week with her and Charlotte, but they need more heat on that if where that's headed. So I don't think she'll be involved in the Rey and Eddie thing anymore, really. Yeah, the Hall of Fame thing. I like it. I think that's a great idea. I think it makes the most sense for where we're at right now. It makes the most sense.